Hello, dear viewers. Thank you for coming to this site and on my YouTube page and giving me the encouragement to really share some of my knowledge and experience with you people. You have been very kind. You have been visiting me on and off. Sometimes I am not very punctual, my delays are there. For example, first of all, let me apologize about yesterday's video, which was supposed to be an interview with Ms. Manisha Nair from India on the topic of NLP and motivation. She is a professional NLP practitioner and an motivational catalyst. She is going to perform on 27th and 28th of this month, January, in Bahrain. I can give you the contact number, but I'll do it tomorrow after I have another interview with her, because it was my first time with Skype, so the sound quality was not that good, and the video quality people may forgive because they know it is from Skype, and then the distance from the country to country and the strength of the internet, the bandwidth. So my apologies first to Miss Manisha Nair for having to go through all that effort. She's a very busy lady. She has to run her office plus go out for trainings or give trainings at her own venue. So she's, as I was expecting, and I told you yesterday also, that she's a very kind lady and very generous, so she agreed to do it tomorrow, not today, because she has some renovation going on in her office, which she also has converted a place as a studio. So it was very noisy when we talked, the hammering was going on, and she was right. And let's see, tomorrow we will be well prepared. And one thing I promise you, I tried to see the video which is recorded by me on my computer, because that's the law for transmission. Whenever you transmit anything, whether it's radio or TV, you have to record a copy in case something happens or some anybody complains, so then we have a proof with us which we can show to the court or whatever authorities may demand. So I checked that video, and my colleague in the office also checked it with me, and we thought that the sound was possible. But I just could not feel like putting it online. Again, as I said, are my apologies. So I'll keep that as a video to show us the mistakes we made, so tomorrow I won't be making those mistakes again. But what I was going to promise was, in case something like this happens with Skype and all, what I will do is I will leave it there on the YouTube, but I will take a copy and edit it on my computer with my software and do the necessary enhancements and then put it back again on YouTube. So coming back, and then my apologies, sorry, today is a day for apologies. Manisha Nair also sent me an SMS that I had made a mistake in announcing her profession and her experience by saying that she was a NLP trainer. That's incorrect. She is an NLP practitioner. So I've corrected that, Ms. Manisha. You can hear me if you can watch this video. And another thing I will point out, you may be wondering, sometime I call her Miss, sometime Mrs., sometime just by name. Normally I am very hesitant to call anybody by Mr. or Miss or Mrs. My habit is first name basis, and people call me by first name. So just ignore that. And as I had explained, that I have also had comments not only from my viewers, even from my wife and from my children, that I am very slow in speaking. People want a fast speaker, and my voice itself is not that suitable for broadcasting because it's a little bit high pitched. And wives being what they are, you cannot ignore them. They control the nest where we go at night to cover yourself up and crawl into that bed to sleep with that warmth and love. But as I have seen, and I was expecting it, and you should also expect it from me, that when I am talking about human nature and the human capabilities and what humans are made of, I was expecting you people, my viewers, to be lenient about those things and just pay attention to the words I am using. My English is not that good. I was not born in an English country. It's a second language for us. And then I did not study in high post grammar schools. I am a self-made person. I learnt everything by myself, and even if I was a very good English speaker, I would still prefer using very simple language, because this broadcast goes worldwide, and there are different countries, different regions where even this simple English may be difficult for them. But I'm trying, and as I had hopefully planned and still sticking to it, is that very soon we will be having at least those regional languages this broadcast translated into those regional languages of the people, expatriates who come to Dubai either for business or for employment. This is my main target, because through Dubai, that opportunity which Dubai gives to everybody who is here is intermingling with different cultures, different languages, different people, different modes of working culture. So I have come to know my surrounding area people very well, and to be honest, it did not make any difference to me. We became more close. I would rather call each other from by different nationalities. I would just name it Asians. We are Asians, we are from Asia, and that's what it is. Asia has maybe about 60 languages by itself if you take the main languages spoken in Asia. I'm sorry, I cannot master those languages. Only the languages which I learned due to necessity was from my country, the regional languages of Punjabi and Urdu. Urdu, of course, is my mother tongue. Punjabi and no, I think it's only Punjabi. English, Punjabi, and Urdu. These are the three languages I can speak. But later on, we will be broadcasting in the main majority of the people who are here in. I will be broadcasting in Malayalam, Tamil, Tagalog, Chinese. Chinese also has different dialects. I think main one is Mandarin, that's what they say. I don't know. I'll be interviewing many translators. The only quality I will be looking into them would be the first priority would be that they know the different dialects of the place the translation they are going to do, the language. Plus the second criteria I will be keeping for these people will be that they don't have any vested interest, they are not political, they don't hate any nationality, they don't hate any religion, because while translating I don't want them to contaminate my content and maybe get me in trouble, because I would not know what they are saying. I have to show trust to these people. So for that I'll be hiring 3 different people of the same language. One would be translating and the other 2 would be reporting back to me what was said by this translator. So that will be a safe way out for me. And now coming back to the interest which these broadcasts have created, people have started watching it. Although on YouTube at the time I'm broadcasting, I'm sorry to say, although my target still stands, I'll repeat it again, is about 1 million concurrent viewers at a time during my live broadcast. That's a little bit far away. It's not even 5 to 10 people who come online when I'm broadcasting. So I don't mind, because when I see the YouTube analytics, they are quite good. People do watch at their own time. I understand that because of the different time zones of different countries, people cannot be alert at the time when I am broadcasting. So the archive copy, YouTube has a very good service that they automatically, if you tick those places, they automatically archive those videos, these live transmitted videos, and they put them there for the viewers or the visitors to watch at their own leisure. But one word of caution: if you have just missed the transmission, don't go for the archive video. It will not be ready yet. It will still be under process. The rule of the thumb would be to be on the safe side, to avoid frustration. Give it 1 hour after broadcasting. When the broadcasting ends, give it 1 hour and the video will be ready for you to view. Another thing which I have learned by live broadcasting, and I am still trying to get used to it, is to keep these videos short. I get carried away. I enjoy it so much that sometimes it takes maybe 1.5 hour video. This is not good. That's very lengthy. And even from the point of view of the question answer, which should be the main backbone of these videos with these live transmissions, and as I said, when the viewership increases of the live transmission, they may even interact with me, they may chat. The chat is on the right side of the, or maybe on the page, it is at the bottom of this video which you are viewing. So they can chat, interact with me, or they can tweet. All my addresses, all my contacts can be had from my LinkedIn profile by just put in my name and search there. It will not be by Uncle K Live, it will be by my personal name, Khursheed Al Hasan Khan. So please bear with me. I've taken too long to explain all these things. Let me go to the stories which I will tell you, they are examples, they are not true stories. I just make them up as I go. And sorry, one thing more I have to repeat again is I never rehearse anything. Everything is clear on this website. Even if I receive a call, I answer it as if we are amongst friends, amongst people we know each other. We are colleagues, we are professional working people, we are professional business people. So, what I'm trying to say is that when I have to make up everything as I go, I have never written anything, it's not read from some place, I don't copy other people's stories. My experience itself, 50 years in Dubai and 20 years in my country, 70 years is my age. I have so much experience, not only because I led a drab life. People who are hyper active, who are always on the move, do keep on trying different things at different times. They don't stick with one thing. They don't, because they get bored very soon. So don't worry, here comes my story. This time I will be narrating a story from my own country, which is Pakistan. I am settled now in Islamabad because my wife belongs to that area. Of course, there was no Islamabad at that time. This Islamabad came around maybe in 1966, 7. 66 is the time I came to Dubai. So, because of my wife, we settled there. Although I was born in Karachi, so when I was born, I was neither a Pakistani or at that time there was no partition. India was not separated. It was separated the partition was done in 1947, 1 year after my birth. So I was born an Indian. It was an Indian country. I was born in Karachi. So that's where I was raised. And then when we got married, my wife, I met her in Saudi Arabia. So that's how it is. Now let's come to the story I'm going to tell you. These are very touching stories. When we were young, when I was young, we were middle class people. My father was running the Karachi airport and many restaurants. He was the one who taught me the hospitality, the interest in the hospitality business. Although at this stage, to be honest, I regret wasting my time in that industry, which people think is so simple that anybody with little money starts a hotel and they don't know how to run a hotel and what are the disciplines they have to follow, the best practices of taking care of a customer. So I'm starting in Karachi. I was very young, and then there was an event going on in the YMCA because one of my father's restaurants was in the Karachi Arts Council. It was a huge lawn and a beautiful building, and our restaurant was also quite well decorated. And just stepping up, 5 minutes walk from my place was the YMCA. And this event, it was like a circus. I used to pass by and was curious what was going on. And the day started. I walked towards the place, and there was a circular tent, white colored tent, and there was a roped area. It was free. People were crowding there and walking into it, and I also went into the line, and when I touched that rope, which was the barrier they had made, that was the first thing which made me really impressed by these people who were running this show. The rope was so smooth that there were no strands sticking out. You could not get any blisters by rubbing your hand over it. I found out that it was made of nylon. That was the first experience I had of a nylon rope. Thanks to those people who introduced those ropes to us, to me at least. When we walked in, there were no seats. It was a show going on, continuous show. And it was known as the Sarkarama. It was a circular screen all round the walls were screens of a movie going on. The theme was that as if you are walking on a street, so there is something going on behind you, there is something going on the sides, both sides of your peripheral vision and in front of you. As in, suppose you are in a car, so you are seeing things at the back of your car through the rear view mirror, you are seeing in front from the windshield and from the side windows. So for that, I think, I don't remember, maybe they had 11 projectors or maybe 12 projectors simultaneously. They had filmed it also in that way, with the projectors circling in a circularly bound cameras with their lenses all round, and they just walked around with that or drove around with that, and it was recording all the sides and everything, and it had to be projected simultaneously. It was so impressive, and wonder of wonders, that tent, the white colored beautiful clean tent, was air conditioned. Again a surprise. In circuses and these type of shows, these what they call these, whatever it is, these shows which are held, which are temporary for 10 days, 5 days, they don't have air conditioners there. So that was another impression. Then the third thing which I learned from them, thank you for those people who held that event. Of course it was from the US information and whatever it was, through the US embassy in Karachi. The video was, the film was on Lincoln. Sorry, not Lincoln. Yeah, Abraham Lincoln. His statue in the library, in the Library of Congress or the Congress building, where he's sitting in that chair. That made me curious about this guy. Who is this guy? Why are they showing his film? What is his importance? So I went back, immediately went and looked for the library, American library. And again a surprise, it was free. Big bound books, you could take 2 at a time. All you had to do was register, have a library card, and your address and your phone number were supposed to, they used to verify those address and all, and maybe within 2-3 days your card would be ready and you could take those books with you. I took out books from Lincoln, studied whatever Lincoln was famous for, and I also joined the British Council Library. Of course there they would charge per book. I don't blame them, because but the variety, both the libraries, was in whatever you wanted they had. They are doing a good job. It's like a mission. That was the introduction to human service to humanity. These two countries, whatever the history is, why would I say their history? It's all, even with the Ottoman Empire, whether it was Muslims, Christians, Americans, British, all humans have that bad points and good points. They make wars, they make friendships, they make sacrifices, they help each other. It depends on the tone and the mood and the time, the era they are going through. So I took out these books and read about Lincoln and how he abolished slavery all alone, took on these people. He had a policy, he had a discipline, and he would stick to it. And the compassion he had for youth and humankind. The story which I loved most about Lincoln was when he was young, he would openly answer all correspondence with his followers, and as he was the president with his citizens. So he had received a letter from a 12-year-old girl who had told Lincoln that his face was very bony and long. He did not have a beard at that time, no mustache, no beard. To at least keep a beard so that that would cover up his bony face. He answered the young lady very politely and thanked her profusely for the station, and that's it. One day he was passing by a train on a tour of political tour. He had to make speeches in different places, so he purposefully arranged it in such a way that he passed by the village of that little girl. And from the railway station, he walked towards the house of that girl and knocked the door, and a middle-aged lady opened the door, and she was shocked to see that it was the President of the United States standing at the doorstep, even with the beard, because they had seen the beards. No, they had not seen it yet. It had not come out in the newspapers yet. But she could make out that he was the president, and she was very polite and courteous and said it was an honor, and wouldn't he come in to have a cup of tea with them in their house, humble house. And she asked him the reason how he spared the time to come to these poor people. He asked for the young girls by name, and the mother was shocked. He said, "You know my daughter?" He said, "Yes. She had written to me and she had suggested that I keep a beard, and I want her opinion about it." The lady's eyes became misty, and she called out for her daughter. I forget what name it was. And the girl comes running up and sees him, and she immediately recognizes him and says, "Yes, Mr. President, may I call you Lincoln? Lincoln, you look smashing in that beard. You look perfect. So I was right." So Lincoln says yes and hugs that young girl and says that I'm going to give a speech in the evening in your village. Would you like to be my guest? In the meantime, the mother had brought a cup of coffee and some scones, they call them. She had baked fresh. So he has the coffee, and chats with the little girl about her class, about her subjects. And what would she like Lincoln to talk about in his speech tonight? She gave him one or two hints, which Lincoln was, thank God that he had taken the opportunity and the time to come, because those suggestions were really intelligent and to the point. In that speech, that young lady and her parents were there, sitting in the front row of the dais, and they were there with all the dignitaries and the big shots and the VIPs. And Lincoln started his speech and mentioned that what he's going to promulgate and request the Congress to approve as soon as they can is that there should be no segregation for whites and blacks in the schools and buses. The crowd went silent. They were all hushed. Already they knew what type of person Lincoln was, because he was fighting to abolish slavery there. And remember that it's because of this slavery thing that those southern parts of America who were landowners and who were agriculturists, they needed a lot of labor, and they were the slave approving states of America. And they did not like this idea of Lincoln to abolish slavery. That's the reason the Civil War had started, and God gave Lincoln victory over that. So what story am I saying? I said I'll tell you about my own country, but this was he will always be my hero. Abraham Lincoln must be watched by everybody. Read his stories, how he had problems with his speeches, but he used to speak with his heart. It was very emotional. and that's what I'm following. I have no idea about speeches. I don't know how to speak. I don't have the voice or the build for it, but I speak through my heart, and you will appreciate that it may make you emotional many times. I do get emotional every time I speak because that's the truth of what I am talking about. So in my country, there was this president of our country at that time was Ayub Khan, and he was from the army, and he had ruled us through martial law. The army, when I was my mature years, when I could remember those things, was all through those martial law days, and I hated the khaki army uniforms because at that age also I knew this was not right. They have no right to rule over us through martial law. I don't know about elections. I don't know about politics, and I did not know that there was corruption, and even now what is going on. Those things I had no idea about. I wanted elections. I wanted people to give their own choice. Whichever president it would be should be from the public, not an army retired general, and not the one who had already ruled us through martial law as the field marshal. He had promoted himself as a free field marshal. What I learned from Ayub Khan, it may not interest you because he was not from your country and Pakistan is not your country, but we have similarities. We have gone through bad time. For example, Philippines had Marcos he was also from the army, and he was a dictator there, like Ayub Khan, and then we had Yahya Khan, and we had many dictators. In fact, even now, I think we have dictators. It's just a farce that it's an elected thing. So this one, then you, except for one country which I admire and I will always admire, is India. If I was in Pakistan, I wouldn't be able to say these words because they are still drummed as our arch enemies. Enemies for what? Because they cannot swallow the partition, because they cannot swallow that we separated. In fact, they can guarantee that they celebrated the separation of people like us into a separate country, because they knew that we would be a nuisance and we would always be having conflicts there. We have never learned to live together and be tolerant of each other. Now there are some people who have learned that. What compassion, when I talk about what really makes me admire those countries, are Jews in Israel when they stand up for human rights, when they go against their government to correct them for doing anything, overindulging in some things which they do. Although I agree that Israel has to do things to protect itself. It's a lonely place, it's a small place, same way like Britain is an island, small island. It has to either go with the European Union, cannot swallow European Union, but has to stay in contact with European Union, because those are the times and the situation and the area which dictate that they have to compromise on those things. So those Jews which stand up for human rights, and those Indians which stand up for human rights even in their own country against their government. But two things I will say. From my vested point of view of my country, Israel, if I am in my country, I will not even be able to praise Israel. Israel itself follows democracy, and India, as they said, it is the biggest democracy. We should learn from these two countries. I admire those places. That's why the humans, the people, the citizens who feel that something the government is doing wrong, they stand up for it. Even the courts justify these human right people when they point out the mistakes of the government. The courts and the Supreme Courts are also helping them. They agree with these people. Imagine a country where a citizen of the country can take the prime minister of that country to court and win. That was India, and it was against Indira Gandhi. I forget the name of that gentleman. He is my hero, but I've forgotten his name. I don't know. Because of the emergency which Indira Gandhi had declared. These are the people who speak out. These are the people who want peace. But it's a battle against doves, and who are the opposite of doves? I've forgotten. Eagles maybe. So these are the people who want peace, but the majority of the people there do not want peace. So whenever there is a chance of shaking hands and coming close, something is created, some scene is created, some blast is there, some scenario is created to show that yes, this is what my country did to that other country, and we are not there for peace. We are just showing off. We are just covering up our hatred for that country, which is not true. If you want the proof of this, see some videos sometimes which some Indian TVs and our country's TVs also show, is at the border of these two countries. Look at the citizens celebrating together. Look at the way the guards there at these two borders help each other. Look at the sweets being distributed on each other's Independence Day. I have heard from people, I have not been to India, I have heard from people who have been there that the government employees there in India, whether they are the railways or the police, are very intelligent, very, excuse me for that. They are very, very sophisticated. They have no idea, they have no hatred for whether you are from Pakistan or any place. They are doing their rules, they are doing their job. And a country which is trying to, sometimes they fail, they try to be neutral about religion. They don't even allow religion, although their majority is Hindu, they don't even allow that to be mentioned in the courts or in the police stations or in the schools. That is what I admire. So the story during Ayub Khan's time, I take it too far away from there. The story, how it happened. There was a war in 1965 between India and Pakistan. I'm embarrassed to say that. I don't even want to remember it. Who won and who lost. A war is always a loss for both sides. Nobody wins. Maybe you win by tactics, maybe you win by small skirmishes, but winning a war, you may occupy some land, you may subdue somebody, but you cannot conquer anybody's heart. Love, admiration, respect comes through the heart. You cannot force anybody to do that. What have you won in that war? You have subjugated people, maybe you have made them slaves. Look at the British rule, look at the Ottoman Empire. They gloat that, oh, they ruled over the world. They cannot, nobody will ever be able to rule on anybody, another human being, unless they win them by their heart. And for that, you have to have those good deeds. That compassion which I'm going to talk about now, just now. So please bear with me. I'm coming to the story. It was I was in Karachi, and the type of atmosphere at that time during Ayub Khan's time was that we did not even know what our neighbors were, whether they were Punjabis, whether they were Sindhis, whether they were Balochis, whether they were Pathans. These are the four main different sects, not sects, the I don't know, I'll call them tribes. These are the four different regions of our country which are there. And then there were the so-called Muhajirs, which I hate the word. It was a conspiracy, I would say. Those are the ones who used to speak Urdu because they were migrants from India, and Urdu was made. Actually, it was called as the army language because when the Mughals used to rule over India, and India has about maybe 120 languages, and to make them understand, they had merged these languages. There is Arabic, there is Urdu, Malayalam, Tamil, Sanskrit, and so many other languages. Regional languages of India were mixed, merged, and made into one language. So that became the official language of the British Empire also afterwards in India. So when there was partition, these people came from India and they were the Urdu speaking people. So that we had 5 different sects, different regions in Pakistan. Karachi was mostly for the Urdu speaking people. I'm telling you this background, I'm giving up this background because the story relates to this. Then when I always say about compassion, we also have another problem which every country has faced. Britain has faced these Catholic and Protestant wars going on, Irish and all. France has faced these wars. Many other countries have faced these. Philippines has faced these things. We have our war with Sunni and Shia. This religion sects, I don't know why. How people, what do these humans want? They have not even completed, they have not even improved the living standard in this world. But how ready they are to fight and kill another person, making excuses that he's from that sect and he's from this religion. So that is, now you have the scenario what atmosphere we were living in Pakistan at the time of 1965. This story begins. I am young. We used to go to school and come back. And as I said, from that time onwards, I was very curious. I wanted to learn. I had to learn. I respected my elders, my teachers. So there was a person who used to teach psychology at his home. Psychology was not a very popular subject in the colleges, and not to mention in school, nobody would even consider going. There was no subject like that. So I had my senior friends who were senior to me. They were in college and I was in school, but we used to sit together, play chess. Now that will show you the interest I had. I would not go out and fly kites or play marbles or play cricket or anything. We would just sit and play chess. So we used to go to this, it was a walking distance, about 10 minutes from our house to the house of this gentleman, and he used to teach psychology. He was so engrossed in it. He was retired, and because of his age, white beard, so his family had given him a small room outside the house. It's attached to the house. So he would entertain his guests there. And we used to contribute, all the students, and turn by turn order tea from the nearest coffee shop. So we would just sit and listen to this gentleman. His name was Mahirul Qadri, whose son now in Pakistan is known as Tahirul Qadri. It was no religion that we used to go to this gentleman. He was the leader of the Maulvis or priest of Islam. We would never would touch anything about religion there. It was just human psychology. What are humans? That was my starting point when I learnt about humans. I pray for this old gentleman that he rest in peace. He would go out of his way just to give us lessons in psychology and human nature. That really made me have sleepless nights thinking about humans, why they do what they do, why do they fight, why do they have these wars, why can't they be peaceful? What have we achieved? Have we become the greatest people? Even America, supposed to be the greatest nation in the world, does not fight because of that. They may have their financial reasons. It may be greed, but not because America, because it is America, must rule everybody. They are forced to do it because that's the only commodity they can make money with is the armed forces. Like in Pakistan, our main export is casual labor, the uneducated people we send out to work outside as coolies and loaders, and these are the people we send out, and that's what the majority of our country is, still uneducated. No schools for them, no, they cannot afford to go to a good school. So in that ratio, if you say with the poverty and all, our uneducated population is about 80%. Imagine. And only 10%, I mean 2% are the top who do not even worry about 10 years ahead what would happen. They have enough money, enough buildings, enough real estate in different countries, and that they have a different lifestyle. Then the remaining 80, the 18% are the middle class, and no, not 18%, maybe 16% the middle class, and then 10% middle class, and the 8% are the lower middle class. And they have. It is said that whichever country, due to change and expansion, ever loses its middle class, either people are very rich or they are very poor, is ripe for a revolution. The very poor people will stand up for their rights. They will snatch their needs, their things which they need from the rich. Middle class is the buffer between these two classes. They are the people down to earth, very practical, plus they have a lot of savings in the bank in case of emergency or change or anything. So this story starts with a gentleman, a middle-aged gentleman around 20 years old. He was from the Ahani sect. We call them Hojas. In Hojas also they have Shias and Sunnis. Same way we have a sect. These are business sects. They only do business. No Aga Khani or a Khoja you will find employed anywhere outside except through their own schools and they do jobs only for their own people. Same way with Bohris. Then there are Memons who are big business people in Karachi, especially the mill owners, industrialists. They also will not work for anybody. They will only work for their own community. Or even a jobless person in Memon or these communities would prefer to spread a white sheet on the footpath and start selling things. They are only business minded. They will never work for no employment for them. They don't like it. So this Aga Khani gentleman, 20 years old, wanted to. Sorry, it's not Aga Khani. It's Memon. My mistake. Sorry, Memon. And he used to because they have these Jamaat Khanas and their majlises and their own rules amongst their community, their dress code, everything. This gentleman used to always talk about humanity, helping others, and the women community the elders would say that, young man, we are already doing this. We do give to charity. We help people. We open schools and all. He said, no, sir, no, this is not what I mean. It should be personal, face to face. We don't know the suffering some of these poor people face. By giving charity, the charity cannot go to each and every house and talk and tell them, did you eat tonight or not? They cannot share these goods which you give them. It has to be personal. Let us do something. Let us do something. And all those the decision makers in that community would shun this guy, that he's a little bit crazy, maybe off his mental capacities, and he's too compassionate. People will cheat him. They will take away everything he has. He sometimes even gives the shirt off his shoulders to a poor guy. So how can you give money to him? He will just throw it away to these other people. They will take advantage of it. He kept on doing that till the age of 35. Till the age of 35, he kept on requesting his people, and out of either to get rid of him or just out of pity for this young man or middle-aged man, he was 35 at that time, would give him some money to distribute amongst the poor. Then with the money he started getting, he rented a small flat and made it a shelter for widows and women without homes, only for ladies and girls who had no supporters. They could come and settle there. They could work. They could do some embroidery. They could stitch, to make money for the community, for that rest house which he had made. And he would get them married off, he would get their photos in the papers to get suitors, and he would have one day marry about 10, 20 marriages taking place, and they would be settled that way. The decision makers in that community were a little bit now impressed that this guy is doing something. They said, okay, we'll give you a little bit more and see what you can do with it. So he opened another shelter for homeless men. And along with that, his wife, known as Bilqis, now I will give the name of the gentleman. His name is Idhi. And he is the biggest charity person in Pakistan, not only in Pakistan, anywhere in the world, wherever there is a disaster. And do you know that our country, our government doesn't have any ambulances, nothing by the government. All ambulances from top to bottom, from Karachi to Peshawar, 1,000 miles distance, all ambulances belong to this Idhi Trust. And seeing his good work, the American embassy donated a helicopter as an a helicopter ambulance to the Idhi Trust. He and his wife were not only doing this charity work, they also would bury people who had no relatives. Whenever the police would find a dead person somewhere, anywhere, for maybe murdered or maybe killed by traffic accident, and there was nobody to bury him, there were no relatives, Idhi and his wife would wash them, clothe them, and bury them for those people. He still keeps on doing, although in his funds, the funds he has in his charity to distribute to the poor, to help in disasters, and to take the expenses of his ambulances. He pays the drivers the salaries and the food, and for the shelters. He has about $15 billion in the bank account. It's not only his community which donates now, the whole country donates. All over the world donations come to him. All he has is a bank account number published. Any country you go to, he has this United Bank account number. You want to donate something, send it through that bank. And you are rest assured that there will be no fraud or anything. He will put it to the right place. He will use it to the right place. Imagine this thing. This was a story, a compassionate story. You can watch, you can search out Hindi on the internet, Google it, and you will find his photo and his wife's photo. Imagine at their age now, I think they are about 75 or something. They are still washing dead bodies and burying them. He can relax, he has money. If he spends that money on himself, nobody is going to object. But he never does that. His children are there. His son, I think, looks after those charities now. But look at this story. Compassion. And nowadays, in the modern times, which I have learned, is the law of attraction. When you want something so desperately, things open up for you. He was desperate. He had only one idea and he kept going for it. He is there, he is a life example. And then you look at Mother Teresa. She spent all her life just to feed some children which were not even from her country, a far away poor children in India. Imagine that. Imagine so many examples I can give you. Look at Warren Buffett, the richest man of the world, who just gave $5 billion to charity. If you make money, if God has given you that, that is also a test. You have to go through the worst test which any human can go. Poor people can get used to their poverty, to the hunger, because they know there is nothing worse than that. There is no worse things are going to come to them. But a rich man is always worried of becoming poor. And a rich man has more to answer to God because of the trust God showed them and gave them all the riches. How he spends it, how they spend it, how she spends it is a big challenge. And to keep on making more money so that they can keep on giving to charity, so that the funds should not diminish. It does not belong to them, it belongs to the human beings, to the needy people. So this is for today. I am going to end this transmission now, and tomorrow I have a very, very interesting story, and it has to be in 3 parts. So I'll create it is already very suspenseful, so you will be curious till you come to the end. You will enjoy it. It will be very interesting. So one remark you may be you may be asking is this what he will be doing on his TV channel every day, telling stories? No, the training starts very soon, where I will convert you, hopefully, to be compassionate to your fellow human beings, service to humanity, and you will be the people who will fill the post of professional customer service people. I am going to prepare you for that. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Take care and don't forget to do your good deeds every day. Thank you. Bye bye.